Good afternoon, students. And so we're in week 3 of this week. And for this week, we're going to be doing food posts. So you have to post your first post by Wednesday so that everybody has time to make comments to your food post. And then by Sunday, you have until Sunday to post it to students. And so, Sasha, knowing that we're being recorded, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. How do you like the class so far? And we're not going to talk about our grades because we're being recorded. How do you like the class so far?
I like it. It's been great.
Is it fun?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is this more fun than your other classes?
Actually, for me, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I've been telling the other teachers that ChatGPT has progressed so far that you can upload pictures of, say, medical pictures, and it will explain to you what that medical picture means. If you go to Bing AI, it will do that. If you upload a picture of, say, anatomy, it will explain to you what that anatomy is and stuff like that. So I've yet to really, I've just seen articles about it, and I don't have and if you have GPT-4, the paid version, it will do that for you. You don't have to go to Bing AI in order to do that. But if you don't have GPT-4 paid version, then you can go to Bing AI, and then you can experiment with that. That's one of the newest things. And also you can talk to it. You could, after you upload your picture, you would talk, it's like you talk to your picture, you would say, oh, what does this picture mean? What does it show? And then my biology teacher wants me to write a paper on enzymes. So if you upload a picture of an enzyme, the Bing will tell you all about the enzyme, and all you have to do is take notes on whatever Bing says, and then you can, and then ask Bing, what research can I, papers can I read about so I can have more, because the teacher most likely will want you to have in-text citations, so you can ask Bing, where can I get in-text citations, and so on and so forth. And you just have to make sure there's scholarly articles. And also you can go to Google Scholar for that. So that's the newest thing that would help you with. I've yet to tell the other science teachers this. That's what my conference is about tomorrow, actually. It's about how to use ChatGPT in education. And that's the reason why I have to make everything today, this lecture, instead of, tomorrow. So I'm excited about it because this is my first digital lecture and stuff like that. So anyway, do you know what a peer review is? I'm going to share my screen about what is a peer review. Oh, before I do that, so for week 3, all you have to do is the week 3 forum and the week 3 quiz. So that's it for week 3. And if you want to prepare for the week 3 quiz, you have to look at my week 2 Zoom session. So that has the week 3 prep. Okay, that's for the people who are watching. All right, so without any questions, if you have no questions, I will now go into what is a, let's start from the beginning. Should I go to set up slideshow? I have no idea what that is. It should be from beginning. There we go. Yeah, so what is a peer review? And so I'm going to go over. A lot of people don't know what a peer review is. It's very similar. A peer review is very similar to when you get a job performance review. Or if you're a boss and you want to review the workers and you tell the worker, you really should not do this. Have you ever been somebody's boss and you have to tell them what to do, how to do the job because you're the senior one on the staff? No? Well, if you've ever been a boss, you know what a peer review is, because it's just giving a review, except instead of someone's job that you're reviewing, you'll be reviewing somebody's paper and telling them how they can improve their paper. Whereas on a job review, you're the boss telling somebody how they can improve their performance at the job. So basically the practical things that you learn from peer review from this class is how to take feedback graciously and not insist that your job review must always be something positive, and also to have a growth mindset, to seek out the boss, to ask, how am I doing on the job? And then if the boss says, you really aren't that good at such and such, you just go, okay, I'm going to improve it. I'll improve on that, and you have a can-do instead of, well, I'm not really like that. Are you sure you're saying that? Would you say that to your boss as if questioning her intelligence? Questioning? No, you would just say, yes, boss. So that's basically a more can-do. That's very American, actually. But so today we're going to go over the purpose of a peer review, the benefits of peer review, constructive criticism, how to receive feedback, how to give feedback, peer review forum, and peer review in the real world. So let's see if this will go. Yeah. So many students have trouble with the peer review forums. In this presentation, I define what is a peer review. And so for in week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all of the after week 5. So this is a little out of date. This says after week 4, but actually week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's all going to be peer review forums. And so many students worry that they're not strong enough in grammar and that they hurt other people's feelings if they do a peer review. And I come out to say, all you have to do is just give your opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. You don't have to be a movie director to have an opinion on some movie. So you don't have to be a professional writer. So we're going to go over the writing process, and the writing process has pre-writing, where you come up with a topic and write an outline. Then the second stage of the writing process is where you transform that outline into a 5-paragraph essay. So that's going to be your week 4 assignment. And then in weeks 5 and 6, you're going to rewrite your rough draft based on the corrections that I give you and then in week 6, you're going to hand in your final draft. So week 4, that's coming up. That's going to be the writing process, and the writing stage of the writing process, where you transform your outline into a 5-paragraph essay. Then week 6, 5 and 6, you will rewrite your entire rough draft of essay 1, and then you're going to then correct other people's papers. And so a peer review is when you review another student paper to give it feedback so that your classmate can get a better writing grade. A peer review is also when others review your paper and give you feedback so you can get a better grade. So that's basically, peer review in a nutshell, where you tell somebody, you know what, I think you misplaced your thesis statement, or your thesis statement is vague, or your body paragraphs don't match your thesis statement, that sort of thing. So you figure out what's wrong with someone's paper, and then, so basically you going to use the sandwich method. First, you show appreciation feedback. So in appreciation feedback, you give feedback where you appreciate someone's work. You would say, Denisha, you did a great job. You're so good at, or I totally agree with your topic because. Your paper is really good because. So that pretty much appreciation feedback fills in the blank of your paper is really good because. So we always start out by saying something positive. So that's, everybody wants to hear positive. Then in the middle of your feedback, after you say something positive, then you say, in what way can this paper be improved? So that's known as mentoring feedback, where you're helping someone with their paper. Mentoring and coaching feedback is the same thing. So in both mentoring and coaching feedback, you focus on giving people suggestions on how they can improve their skills, also known as areas of improvement. So in a writing peer review, you don't have to be a grammar expert. Nobody will laugh at your remarks, and pointing out grammar mistakes will not offend anyone, because remember, I'm the only one that actually gives grades. All you're doing is just giving suggestions. So in the meat of your feedback, you will write what's wrong with somebody's paper. And then the last kind of feedback is evaluation feedback, and that's when the teacher gives a grade. So you've got appreciation feedback, where you praise the paper, coaching and mentoring feedback, where you show areas of improvement, and then evaluation feedback, which is something you're not going to be doing, but something I will be doing for your week 4 rough draft, where I give you a template and I say, well, your thesis statement isn't very clear, or you need to use these as your topic sentences. And basically in week 4, in my evaluation feedback, I give each student a template from which to base their 5-paragraph essay, and then you rewrite that essay for your week 6 week 6 final draft, and your week 6 final draft will count as your midterm. Just like your week 12 will count as your final exam. So there's no exams in this class, it's just papers. And so evaluation feedback is when I give you your grade and I evaluate your rough draft and give you a template. So what are the benefits of a peer review? Peer review builds teamwork. Peer review allows students to clarify their own ideas. And in other words, when you do a peer review, you reinforce your knowledge of what you read in the textbook. So let's say you learned about thesis statement. You just read a chapter about thesis statement in the textbook, and then you make a lot of comments on somebody else's thesis statement. And in doing so, you reinforce your knowledge of a thesis statement. And so that's basically the main purpose of a thesis, of a peer review, is that you reinforce your knowledge of writing skills, and you help weaker writers become stronger writers. And so, and you get to improve someone else's writing grade, and other students get to improve your writing grade, so that the stronger writers will help the weaker writers. And therefore, we are all one team, and we build student investment because students buy in to the writing process. And by talking about the writing process with other students, you learn more about the writing rather than just read about it or me just talking about it on a Zoom. And then you experience the teamwork of everybody working together to get everybody a better grade, so that students learn from each other through the process of peer review. And I already said the weaker writers learn from the stronger writers, and it's kind of like a ad hoc study group. So Sasha, do you consider yourself a strong writer or a weak writer?
I would say I'm a strong writer.
So if you're the stronger writer, then you can help out the weaker writers. And if people, because some students can't put together a paragraph. Or I had a student write one paper as one paragraph, one long paragraph, 3 pages long, and she did not understand the whole concept of indenting and for paragraphs. So the stronger writers had to teach her how you do that, and even refer her to YouTube has a lot of how to write a paragraph videos. And so that's what happened to that particular student. And also it's less scary when the feedback comes from other students than from the teacher, because you think, oh, the teacher's going to give me an F, or if I write something poorly, the teacher's going to flunk me out of the class. Whereas if you're just the student, you're not giving the grades, you're just giving, and you're just giving suggestions. So you can discover, when other students read over your paper, then they can discover the weaknesses and strengths in your argument, because you, the writer, can get too close to it. That's why I always advise people that when they're revising their paper, take a break, go take a walk. Don't just do everything in one sitting, because when you're the writer, you get too close to your paper, you can't see. And this goes also for expert writers as well. Ernest Hemingway made 29 revisions of each chapter of his book. So I'm going to have to drink this. So peer review provides professional experience for students having their writing reviewed. So peer review is the process by which professionals in the field publish. So when I was writing recently, I submitted a book chapter to be included in a book on education and student engagement. And my chapter had to go through 3 peer reviews. In other words, 3 experts that I don't know will then review my paper and then put in track changes for me to correct it. And then I get my paper back from 3 different people, and then I have to make all these corrections on my chapter before it can be accepted into somebody's book. So that is how professional peer review works, so that the research papers that you read are peer reviewed. That's what a peer-reviewed article is. When you look up a peer-reviewed article, that is the most credible source that you can find in your online library, because other experts have already reviewed that article before it was published. Do you understand how that works? So that's why when you go looking for, and you can find a lot of peer-reviewed articles on Google Scholar and also in the Fortis online library in all the different databases. So that's where you get And then of course the least credible source is if you go to Wikipedia or ChatGPT. ChatGPT has been known to hallucinate and make up sources that don't exist. There was actually a lawyer who he did his research on ChatGPT thinking that ChatGPT had really good research, and he was taking a shortcut, and then they found out that it cited sources that didn't exist. And so when the opposite side was saying, well, you know what, your legal defense is totally ineffective because you're coming up with evidence that don't even exist. So that lawyer ended up having to pay a $5,000 fee and be laughed at by other lawyers because he used ChatGPT for his research. You use ChatGPT for idea generation, and if let's say you're stuck, I don't know what to write about, you can use ChatGPT like you would use Google search to see what other ways or what other topics you could use. You could also use ChatGPT to write your outline. That's it. And then you could use ChatGPT to fix the grammar errors in your paper. So ChatGPT is good for looking for essay topics, outline, and revision. It's not very good at research. Research is still something you have to do the old-fashioned way. You go to the library, you find the peer review articles, so that way you know the articles exist, you see. So so even though ChatGPT is fun, it has its uses, it has its ups and downs. So that's basically what my talk is, because most teachers still don't know how to use it. So getting back to peer review, so you show appreciation. We went over appreciation. So what are the benefits of doing a peer review?
It helps you to maybe see mistakes in grammar that you didn't catch previously while you were writing it.
Mm-hmm.
It can offer other ideas that you didn't think about, like maybe somebody who's reviewing your paper would say, oh, well, I think if you said this way, it would make your point more clearer.
Because for the most part, we all humans have a big ego. So when we write something, we for the most part think it's perfect. But then when other people read it, they see all the mistakes. Although when I create something, I usually see a lot of mistakes too. But when I got my book chapter back, I was surprised at all the mistakes that were in there. And some of those mistakes are the same mistakes I correct students for. But that's what's funny about it. The teachers make the worst students, just like doctors make the worst patients. It's really funny. Do you have to be a professional writer to do peer review?
No.
No. Have you done peer review in other classes?
I have.
Which classes have you done it for?
I've taken this class before, more than 8 years ago, before I had my daughter. And we had to do peer reviews in that class. And I've also done it in like elementary school, actually, and high school.
Yeah, when I was in high school, we were looking at grade. When I was in elementary school, the teacher didn't call it peer review. It's a game. It was the grading game. You get to be the teacher. I remember she said it was a teacher grading game. You could pretend to be a teacher for the day or something like that. And so we thought it was fun to be the teacher for the day and grade each other's papers. That was how I was introduced to it in elementary school. So I remember correcting someone's paper, but it was a lot of fun. Everything is fun when you're a kid. It's too bad you kind of lose that as an adult. So what are some misconceptions about peer review? Don't worry if you are not a good writer. You do not have to be a good writer to be, even if you're weak in English, you can still do a peer review. My English grammar stinks because I am an ESL, EFL student. English is not my first language. How can I grade some native speakers' English? That's one of them. So don't worry if your English grammar stinks. All the other students, including the native speakers, are in the same boat. And if you were to ask a native speaker, is your English perfect? When you give your papers to your English teacher, you get straight A's and 100s. You're going to have all the native speakers go, not me. All the smart kids in the front row do that, but I sat in the back for a reason. I didn't want her to see me. I actually had a student say that word per word. So that was a native speaker. So if you're an ESL student, don't worry. The native speakers, especially native speakers who don't read a lot. Usually it's people who do not read a lot make the most writing mistakes. People who read a lot, whether you're ESL or not, usually make less. That's usually so that's why I always tell people you've got to read. I am doing the English teacher's job. This I get from ESL students more than I get from native speakers, because ESL students want all the errors to be fixed. If all you do is put a grade, they get frustrated because they automatically assume they have grammar mistakes. So no, you are not doing the teacher's job. I'm the one that's giving the grade. You're not going to be doing any of the grading. That would be what I do. You just simply give suggestions. Oh, but what if I offend my classmates? I shouldn't. I don't know anything. I don't know any better. I got a lot of that. That's more the native speakers. I don't want to offend. Don't worry. You're not. No one's going to laugh at you. You're not going to offend anybody, because everyone has the same assignment. Everyone has to give suggestions to each other because it's part of the curriculum. And I didn't even write this curriculum. The school wrote the curriculum. The designer wrote this curriculum. So each and every English teacher, if you've taken English 101 with a different teacher, it's all the same assignment. Did you take it here? Your English 101? No. But if you had taken this as a repeat, it's the same. Even if you have a different teacher, it's the same exact, because all the teachers get the same exact class shell. And then I just simply populate that class shell with my pictures, my announcements, and my Zoom lectures. So basically, don't be afraid of offending your classmates, and nobody is going to laugh at your suggestions. So what are the misconceptions of peer review?
That if you can't do one if you're not a good writer, that you wouldn't be able to do it if you struggle with grammar, that you're doing the teacher's job, and I know there's one more, and offending somebody.
Are you easily offended if someone corrects your mistakes?
No.
Because I've had a student, like, I would correct his paper, I would put red marks all over the place, and then he came back totally offended saying, I'm a published author, and how dare you correct my mistakes? And then, and I remember he said that in the public forum, and the other students are like, well, the only reason why you're taking this is a different school. He said, the only reason why you're taking the class with the rest of us is because you flunked your English composition test just like we did. So that does not make you any better than the rest of us. She has every right to correct your stupid mistakes as well as ours. So all of them were saying that as if he was a little child, and they were chastising the little child, saying, "It's good for you. You got to take you got to eat the medicine, because when it goes down, it will cure you." Just like telling a little child to eat the broccoli or something. Ew, broccoli. And by the end, he actually did improve, and he showed more appreciation. But this was at the very beginning. He was like this. So now I asked. This is when I first started teaching online. Usually I would see this if I was teaching face-to-face. So I always ask students, are you offended if I correct your paper? 99.99% say, well, why would I be paying money if I didn't want to learn something new? Of course I want to improve. If you don't give feedback, how am I going to improve? So 99.99, especially military students. My other school was a military school, so all of them were like, yes, sir. So of course they weren't. And the one student who was not military, that was the one that was offended by that's what was interesting. Because military students are just used to obeying orders. So remember, your feedback are just suggestions. But when you give the suggestions, you want to give constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is a helpful way of giving feedback that provides specific, actionable suggestions. So rather than providing general advice, when you give constructive criticism, you want to give an actionable suggestion. So instead of saying something vague, like, your paper is very good, you would say, you need to move your thesis statement to the last sentence of the first paragraph. Or, you need to add 3 reasons to your thesis statement. So basically, whatever suggestions you give has to be an action that something people can do. Same thing when you're doing a job review. You don't just say you did a bad job. You would say something like, you laugh too loudly and it bothers people. So then you try your best not to laugh so loudly. Another one was, when I was working in the office, another one was, don't say, you know, at the end of every single sentence. It makes you sound so, because otherwise this Harvard educated lady was so smart. Her only one annoying habit was she had the habit of saying, you know. And she was brilliant at statistics. She could do numbers in her head, but she annoyed the, out of people by that, So the boss took her aside and said, you got to stop with the you-knows. And then after that, she was fine. So when you do constructive criticism, it's not about it's not about getting offended or making offensive statements. It's about giving some kind of action that the person can do to improve themselves. So that's why I like to think that when you go through this peer review process, you can walk away from this exercise with practical knowledge that when you become the boss, you don't just say, that stinks, this stinks, you stink, or something like that. You would tell the person what to do so that person doesn't stink anymore. So that's known as constructive criticism. And so we use a feedback sandwich in which we start with something positive, then we have the areas of improvement, then we have another positive. So that's known as a feedback sandwich. And then we, for our constructive criticism, and then we be specific, and we stick to actionable points, and we recommend, we don't assume. And so, did you learn all of this in your previous classes?
No, my last English class was different.
Oh, okay.
It was also like 9 years ago, so.
Yeah, it was also, it's so different when it's face-to-face, because with
Yeah.
face-to-face, people are a lot less offended because you simply just give each other's papers and then everyone just looks at it. It's much more organic. I think the reason why people are more easily offended is because we're in an online environment, and so we don't get to look at other people's facial gestures. When people smile, oh, I don't mind if you look at my paper and you smile and you like this. Everybody feels comfortable and then they do it. Whereas in a peer review forum, it's just a bunch of names. You don't know if that person would be offended or not. That's where you get, oh, they're gonna laugh at me. Oh, they're gonna, that's where you get all of that. So that's why I had to create this whole lecture. But usually people, even with this lecture, people are still nervous, you see, I find. It's a little better, but still nervous. So you don't have to, so give actionable suggestions. Don't just comment on the topic. After you comment on the topic, then you have to write some kind of actionable suggestion to improve their paper. I get a lot of, I agree, Jean, I agree with your paper. I agree with your topic. Yeah, I too, I'm a babysitter, or I too am a single mother. If you say something like, I too am a single mother, does that help the other student with their paper? No, because let's say the student gets a D+, she still will be focusing on my feedback to improve her paper. So try to, it's nice to agree with that person, but then you can add in a little, area of improvement. So here are ways in which you can comment on essay structure. Are all your paragraphs are too short? Professor H wants your paragraphs to be 5 to 7 sentences long. Oh, you only have 4 paragraphs in your essay. You're supposed to have 5 paragraphs because you have the introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. So that is a 5-paragraph essay. And then the 3 body paragraphs have to match the thesis. Your 3 body paragraphs talk about peanut butter and jelly sandwich, while your thesis statement talks about grape juice. They don't match. And you have to, because your body paragraphs is supposed to be an explanation of your main idea. So they have to match. So you would tell people you don't have one central idea. You ramble. See, when your main idea and your body paragraphs don't match, then you're rambling. You see, that's when people ramble and people are looking around saying, what's your main point? That sort of thing. So you don't want people reading your paper and think that you're some kind of rambler. Or you could say your thesis statement is needs to be the last sentence of the first paragraph, and you put it in the wrong place. So that's also an actionable suggestion. Or your thesis statement does not have those 3 reasons, and the 3 reasons become your body paragraphs. So basically the answers to all of these questions become your actionable suggestion. So these are all suggestions for your suggestions, as it were. You could also more questions. So you could say, you missing a hook. What's a hook? And the introduction is incomplete because an introduction needs a hook, a bridge, and a thesis statement. So you don't have all 3 parts to your introduction. And or your hook is really boring, because a hook is the first sentence that grabs the reader's attention. And so if you're missing a hook, then why would people want to read your essay, you know? And so I go over different kinds of hooks in my video. And I also go over different kinds of thesis statements. And so then you would say, well, your topic sentences don't relate back to your thesis. You're talking about 2 different things. And then the subpoints to your body paragraphs have to match your topic sentences. So then you would say you lack essay coherence because your body paragraph, when you have a paragraph structure is topic sentence, supporting sentence, concluding sentence. The topic sentence states the main idea of the paragraph, and that main idea of the paragraph is taken from the thesis statement. So everything has to match. If something is not matching, then that's what you tell the student, that that topic sentence is not matching the subpoints, or the topic sentence is not matching the thesis. So once everything matches, that's why you do the outline, to make sure everything matches. And then that way you don't have essay incoherence. And so then in your conclusion, you write as the first sentence, you reword slightly the thesis statement, and then you write 5 sentences to summarize your essay. So you would say, you're missing your thesis statement in your conclusion. You need to put that as the first sentence of the last paragraph. Don't be afraid to write a whole page long, that kind of stuff. And so, and if you receive, somebody gives you a whole page of feedback, would you be offended? If someone found 20, 30 errors and it took an entire page, would you be offended? Or would you be grateful someone took the trouble to actually weed out your errors that you were supposed to to take out, you see? So that sort of thing. So that is a better attitude, is always to be more positive. It took a long time for me to learn to have a positive mindset, because I used to expect, because of my ego, I used to expect bosses to always give me something positive. It's okay if they have an area of improvement, but I took it for granted, like I was entitled to that positivity. Nobody is entitled to positivity if you don't earn it. And so that I had to learn the hard way. Therefore, if someone gives you a totally negative review, you eat it, and then you do your best to, respond. I will work on it. I will improve on it. And you find you feel better about it when you have that kind of instead of, I got to be defensive or something like that. So you got to avoid this. This goes also for like in the real world as well, not just for this peer review thing, And I found that once I had the growth mindset, it set me free. And I just simply, and everyone appreciates such a positive mindset. So I'm going over sort of what you, so here are some more questions. What is the essay about? Does the essay make sense? How can you improve the essay so that, are there any APA errors? So do you know your APA citations?
Not perfect with it. So I do I watch a lot of YouTube videos while I'm writing it, just to make sure I have everything.
And you can also go to Diana, you could type this out, Diana Hacker, sample APA paper. You write that exactly, and then put that into Google, and then you could click on sample APA paper, and then that will give you a sample APA paper to look at. And then it will show you how to do in-text citations, and it will show you how to do reference citations. And Diana Hacker also has sample MLA papers and sample Chicago Turabian papers. You don't really need that for this school, but if you ever go to another school, they're going to ask for other research notation. then you can ask for, but here for this school, because APA is used for social sciences and business. And so therefore, for social sciences and business, which is what Fortis pretty much does, that's why we only teach APA. But in a bigger college, you're gonna run into, every department will have its own research notation that you have to learn. So once you learn one research notation method, it's very easy to then transfer over what you learn from APA to MLA or to Chicago Turabian. And so so you could say, does the student include APA citations? Because for Essay 2, now Essay 1, you're not required to have APA in-text citations, unless you want to. Because in the first essay, you're focusing on essay structure and learning 5-paragraph essay structure. Then for the second essay, you're supposed to already know your essay structure. Then you're going to focus on, you have to have at least one APA in-text citation and one APA reference citation. So you can tell people you're missing your APA in-text citation. Here are some suggestions that I found on the web that you can use for your article. So if someone is writing about adulthood is better than childhood, then you would Google the benefits of adulthood, reasons, click submit, and then you're going to get all of these articles about how adulthood is better than whatever, and then you can then give that student suggestions on what articles they can use for their essay. So that's coming up in the second half of the class. The first half of the class, we learn about essay structure, and then the second half of the class, we learn about APA. So then the second half of these questions will make more sense when you start doing peer review after week 7. But in weeks 5 through 7, 4, 5, and 6, no, 5 and 6, yeah, in weeks 5 and 6, you're just going to focus on essay structure. And so you can compliment students. People have no trouble complimenting each other, okay, because that's a feel-good activity. And being kind and courteous, you don't say something like, what are you, an idiot? You wrote something like that. You realize that you don't have the word count or something. I had a student do that. That's why I actually have to tell students to be kind and courteous. You would think, but so I had a student do that, and then some other student took him aside and said, you have to have netiquette. You can't be talking to other students like that, and stuff like that. So be kind and courteous, and how to receive feedback. So I've already gone over, how should I receive feedback? Before we go into this, how should you be receiving feedback? Should you be defensive, or should you be positive?
Positive.
Are you normally defensive or positive when someone gives you negative feedback? Positive. So it's always good to be positive. It took a long time for me to be a good sport. When someone critiques your work or gives you feedback, just be in good spirits and realize we are all here to help you, not hurt you. Because a lot of people think they're threatened by any kind of bad news. And then they become defensive, then they become angry. And so I think I used to be that way. That was a very immature me. You realize as you get older, there's all of these different versions of you as you get older. That shows age. If you can't see different versions of you, then that means you're still very young. But that's good. Do you see different versions of you from when you were younger?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the younger I was, the dumber I was. That's for sure. I always say, wouldn't it be nice if you could take the wisdom from an older age and stick it into that younger, energetic body? Wouldn't that be cool? I saw that on Facebook. I was like, yeah, everybody wanted that. So anyway, receive the feedback with a spirit of fun and stay positive. And so here, I don't even bother reading the, and also, if you do get an F, or let's say someone gives you a D, then instead of getting depressed, which is what I tend to do, you give yourself an A for effort. You tell yourself, well, I did my best. And I know that this is easier said than done, because even though I give this advice to students in this lecture, but when I get my F or when I get a D, you don't see me laughing and going, oh, isn't it funny I got an F? I should just pat myself on the shoulder and think, at least I tried. Oh, are you kidding me? But it's still easier said than done. This is something you have to practice and practice to make this a habit, because we have the habit of, if you get an F, you cry in your soup. Then you complain to anybody that listens to you because you think you're the victim. Now that's how like at least I was until recently. So even if you get a low grade, smile, pick yourself up, start over again, and give yourself an A for effort. For it is the second score of A for effort that counts in life. And I got this from a book called Thanks for the Feedback. That's a good book. So you should that's where I got a lot of this material, is Thanks for the Feedback. In that book, they tell you how to, what the different ways in which the positive way is the best way to receive feedback. And also it's written by the same authors who wrote How to Get Along with Toxic People, or in difficult conversations, something like that. So it's a self-help book. So anyway, and then my boss at the time, we were doing a lot of forums about this, and positive mindset was like the buzzword at that time. This was like 5 years ago. So it is not the score of F that the teacher gives you that defines who you are. It is the second score of A, that's the effort you give yourself, that counts. It is how we respond to adversity, bad news, problems, obstacles, low grades that define our character, our integrity, and our inner strength. And I think that Martin Luther King Jr. says that it's the bad times, not the good times, that defines a person's character. I'm paraphrasing. He says it with a lot more poetry, you see. So people who respond well to negative feedback and who bounce back quickly from adversity tend to live longer, happier lives. And they interviewed this 100-year-old, and they asked him, what's the secret to your long life? They always do that, the reporters, to the centenarians. And they always say, be positive and think of change as a good thing. Okay, so in this life, the first score of F does not count. It is the second score, and that's difficult for people to swallow. This is not something that you just memorize and just do. This is something you got to practice. So that's why, because it's not easy to do, that's why it defines your character. If it was easy to do, then everybody could do it. You see, everybody and their grandmother would do it. So that's what, it takes courage to do something like that. So just have fun. Do not be offended. Have fun working together. Nobody is trying to attack you. Nobody is going to laugh at you. So I like this picture because it looks like, because we kind of lack that in the online environment, the whole idea of everybody working together as a team, because we don't get to see each other and stuff like that. So think of the forum as a coaching session or a tutoring session, and take it as a way to improve your grade. So do you feel better about doing a peer review?
Yes.
And do you feel better about receiving feedback from me or your peers?
Yes.
Because you already, here's some model peer review templates. So we'll go over some of those. And so ineffective feedback would be, gee, that paper was interesting, or that paper sucks, that paper was boring. Effective feedback would be, well, you need to, first, you can summarize. First, this paper talks about the weakness, that talks about why abortion is immoral. And this paper gives really good reasons about why abortion is immoral. However, you're missing a lot of the, in-text citations, and when you cite numbers and medical facts and historical facts, you have to cite the source. Otherwise, you're committing plagiarism. So that would be an example of an actionable suggestion. So that's effective feedback versus that sucks. And I've gone over a lot of this. You need to really, and also be courteous. So you don't want to say, you really need to fix that hook. What were you thinking? So we would not talk like that. And yes, you've got to tell some students that. You're thinking, well, that's what you tell children. Isn't that what their parents were there for, to teach them manners? And I guess, well, yes, I'm sure their parents did teach them manners, but not all children listen. Go in one ear and out the other. How many people children that is, when you were a kid, who prided themselves on the fact that whenever their parents said something, they just did the opposite, So that's, a lot of children do that. And then when they grow up to be people with no manners. So that's the people that need to be told, you have to be courteous in this class. And so let's look closely at the opening. Could you rewrite the first sentence so that it grabs the reader's attention? Also, I'm confused by the thesis statement. Can you rephrase it? So you can say it delicately. You don't have to bash someone in the face with "you're wrong" with whatever it is. So here's a good peer review response. John, you have a great topic. I agree that guns are unnecessary. So that's the appreciation feedback. Now you have the areas of improvement. So he used a sandwich. But you do not have 3 reasons in your thesis. You need to place your thesis as the last sentence of the first paragraph. The strengths of your essay is how now he's going back into the positive. So positive, negative, positive. But the strengths of your essay is how descriptive you are in the body paragraphs. Great job. And I try to use the sandwich method also. Jackie, you write, so this is from an EFL student. Jackie, you write so much better than I do. English is not my native language, so I don't know how much I can help you, but you have much better sentence structure than I do, and you use a lot of transitions. And I remember one time an ESL student did compliment a native speaker on, you use a lot of transitions, and I love the way you use transitions. And then another native speaker goes, what's a transition? And this is an ESL student teaching a native speaker what are transitions. So just because your English is not your native language doesn't mean you don't have something to contribute. My mother was a ESL, Chinese was her first language. She used to correct the grammar in the newspaper, because some the journalists would write with too colloquially and would make mistakes. And my mother, she was really good at her grammar. Anyway, so just because you're ESL doesn't mean you can't correct other people's grammar. Sometimes ESL students know the grammar better because they had to learn. Like when you learn Spanish, if you learn German, would you want to learn the grammar? The subject comes first, then the object, then the verb. I believe that's Korean. Subject, object, verb. We don't say, I watch TV. We say, I TV watch. Now, wouldn't that be useful if you're learning Korean or some other language that's not constructed like English? Right? So that way the Korean person will look at you and go, what? You don't want what? So when you learn a second language, you have to learn the grammar first. So that's why a lot of ESL students, when they learn English, they end up learning the grammar first. That's why they're usually so good at the grammar. They're good at the grammar rules, but they're somewhat weak at applying the grammar rules. So anyway, so Jack, you are missing your in-text citations. Professor H says that when you cite medical facts, you have to cite the source to avoid plagiarism, and you are missing quotation marks around your direct quotes. Your paraphrase quote does not need page numbers. However, you have a great thesis statement, and you followed the thesis formula, topic plus opinion plus reason, and your body paragraphs support your thesis. You have great essay coherence. By the way, this student, it was hugely long, and I just paraphrased it so it would fit on the slide. She actually wrote so much more, because you can only fit so much on a slide. Lamika, you need to double space your paper. Why is your font bigger in one sentence and smaller in another paragraph? All your font has to be the same size. Like you, I too am weak at APA. So I found lots of good advice at www.apa.org. Also, at www.apa.org, you can buy your own APA manual, and it's 7th edition. And it's from the APA manual that you get all things APA. That way you could use it as a dictionary for your future papers. So if you don't know how to do a reference citation with 15 authors, or you have a reference citation with no authors, or something with no date, you don't know how to do that, then the book it's like an encyclopedia, it has everything. So I always tell my students, you should go to www.apa.org and get the APA manual. And I don't think it's that expensive. You could get it off Amazon. So your feedback matters, so that means peer review is important. Here's another one, reread. You need to rewrite your thesis as the first sentence of the last paragraph. Your paragraph is too long. Professor H wants each paragraph to have 5 to 7 sentences, that sort of thing. So you're getting the idea. Erica, you're missing one paragraph. You only have 4 paragraphs and you're supposed to have 5 paragraphs for this essay, and so on and so forth. And here's another ESL student. I am not a good writer. My English teacher said my papers are terrible, so I don't know how much I can help you. But to me, your paper sounds good. Your paper makes sense to me, and I understand the main idea of your paper. I agree that teachers should not have guns in the classroom. You have great sounding reasons. I notice, though, you don't have any sources in your assignment, and for this second essay, we need to have one source. So even though she wasn't very good at writing, she did notice the person didn't have any in-text citations and any reference citations. So that she said, well, so you don't have to just do grammar. And then Mona, you have a great paper. You do not have any sources for your in-text citations. Where did you get the information from? Professor H says we have to have a list of sources at the end of our paper. So this particular student had a lot of in-text citations, but no reference citations. And so the in-text citations go in the body of the paper, and then the reference citation go at the end of the paper. Then you have a direct quote, which you verbatim, word per word, the source. And then you have the paraphrase quote in which you summarize. So therefore, you have to have one of each. So you could say, I use Google for my articles. Professor H can also, so if you have questions, you can ask Professor H and reach out to her. She'll help you with thesis statement, idea generation, and so on and so forth. And so if you run out of things to say, you could just say, you could send that person to me, especially if that person is having a lot of trouble. And so you cannot have only a web address for your reference citation. That is a common mistake is that people just put a web address for their reference citation. So for the reference citation, you need to have an author, you need the date, you need the article name, you need the publication or website name, the date you retrieved the website, and then you need the web address. So those are the parts of a reference citation. If you have a direct quote, you need to put quotation marks. Usually anything with numbers is a direct quote, so therefore you got to put quotation marks. Then you have to have inside the paragraph the author, the date, and the page number. If there's no page number, a paragraph number. And then if you want to paraphrase it, even if you paraphrase it in your own words, you can use Quillbot, Grammarly. There's a lot of AI that can help you rephrase it to paraphrase it. Anyway, getting back to, you don't need any quotation marks, and you just put in the author name and the date, and inside the body of the paragraph. But for either one, you still need to put in your reference citation, so that your list of reference citations needs to match your in-text citations. So that should work. Charnice, your body paragraphs do not relate to your thesis. You are writing about many different things with no relation to each other, and your paper does not make sense. I can't tell if you are for or against abortion. What is your paper about? So for your second paper, that's my other class. So when you write a persuasive essay, you have to state your position. You're either for it or against it. So when you write, this would be in week 9 and 10, you're going to be writing a persuasive essay. You need to state your position. So in your thesis statement, you would say, abortion is moral because, or abortion is immoral because. Reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Then reason 1, reason 2, reason 3 will become your body paragraphs. So you have to state one side or the other. And then I will also teach you how to write a counter-argument paragraph and a rebuttal paragraph, and that's how you address the other side so that your argument is fair and balanced. So that's going to be the second half of your class, that you're going to learn about how you write a counter-argument and a rebuttal paragraph. But basically, your thesis statement should have topic plus opinion plus reasons. So that is your thesis statement formula. So as long as you follow the thesis statement formula of topic plus opinion plus reasons, and you stick the thesis statement as the last sentence of your first paragraph, and then the first sentence of your last paragraph, then you have essay coherence. And then reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, paragraph 2 becomes reason 1, paragraph 3 becomes reason 2, paragraph 4 becomes reason 3. and then you write 5 to 7 sentences about each of those reasons. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so when you tell other people, they have to do that. So that's how I learned grammar. When I was in grammar school, I used to get C's in my grammar because it was so boring, you know. But once I started teaching grammar, that's when I learned it solid. So when you start teaching other people how to write papers, you learn that solid. Do you have kids that are in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade?
Yes, my daughter's in third grade.
Then you'll be teaching her the 3-paragraph essay structure, won't you? Pretty soon.
Yeah.
And you're going to be teaching her paragraph. Right now, at that age, they're learning what is a paragraph. Then they're learning an introduction, a body paragraph, and a conclusion paragraph. Period. Okay? That is what third, fourth, up through fifth grade learn. Once you get to sixth grade, that's when you start going into 5-paragraph essay, and then high school, longer than 5 paragraphs. And so for somebody that young, yeah, you'll be teaching a lot of this paragraph structure to her. So that way, by the time she gets older, you'll know it's solid. And so pie structure, Professor O says we can only use 1 in-text citation per paragraph. She taught us about pie structure. And so I actually have a pie structure video, but not in the announcements for this class, but on my Professor H writing channel. So if you search in Professor H writing channel for pie structure, then you'll find my video on pie structure. So basically, you write 1 in-text citation, P, main point from that's your topic sentence, so that's P. I stands for the 1 in-text citation. E stands for an explanation of that in-text citation. That becomes your entire body paragraph. Okay, so that is pie structure. The reason why I tell students to use only 1 in-text citation per paragraph is so that you don't overwhelm the reader with too many statistics. That's a very common mistake, especially when a student wants to impress the reader by putting so many numbers. But what happens is the reader gets lost in all the numbers, and then they get lost in the paper and forget what the main topic was altogether. So if you just write 1 in-text citation and explain what that in-text citation is, then people don't get lost. So that means at most you'll have 3 in-text citations in a 5-paragraph paper. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so when you use statistics, that's always a direct quote. Any kind of number is a direct quote, and you have to cite it. And so here, I could tell this is dated. I see no mistakes in your paper, Latanya. You have a great thesis. I agree that everyone should get vaccinated against COVID-19. I am worried about these variants. You use great reasons too, and about why people should get vaccinated, like they can stop COVID. If everyone gets vaccinated, we can get herd immunity. So this is one student, let's see, she was agreeing with another. So that's it. So if you are stuck on a thesis, you can ask other students to help you find a source for your paper. If you are stuck on a thesis, you can ask other students to make a better thesis. So for instance, after you write your rough draft, and at the end of your rough draft, you could say, can anybody help me out with this? I can't come up with a good thesis. I can't find sources. Can anybody help me out? So you can actually write questions where you reach out to other students to ask them. This makes it easier, actually. If you ask other students for help, then other students who can't, especially if they're blanking out and can't think what to write for, to improve your paper, you're actually helping the other students out by writing questions at the end of your paper. So anything that you feel uncertain about, you ask in a question after your rough draft, and then people can then answer those questions. This actually makes the whole peer review process much easier, you see. So you can ask questions. So did these model peer reviews help you write or help you envision, visualize? Envision is French. Envisager. Yeah, okay. So that happens from time to time, is that the French, because I know French as another language, and from time to time, that word will come up instead of English. Does that happen to you? Do you know another language?
Yeah, sometimes it does.
What's your other language?
Spanish.
So does a Spanish word sometimes pop up instead of an English word?
Like when I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
So for me,
Or sometimes I think of a word in Spanish that I can't like it takes me a while to translate it to English.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I said, instead of saying visualize, envisager. So that way you can envisager. No, that's French. Visualize, okay? But if I talk to a French person, I can switch back and forth. I don't have to make that extra effort to think in English. So we can talk in half French and half, it's so much easier, so much easier when you talk. And of course, Spanglish and Chinglish also exists. Chinglish is when you have Chinese and English mixed together. It's not a real language, it's just half, half, half. But anyway,
Yeah.
so looking at these peer review, so steps. So when we have a peer review week, first you post your rough draft before Wednesday, so that everybody gets to look at your first draft. Do not make all your posts on Sunday, because then no one will have time to give you feedback, and nobody will have time. I'm not going to have time to give you feedback either. So the earlier you post, the more feedback you get. And then you go to the peer review often. Don't just write your 3 posts, your first post, then post to 3 students and leave. You still got to go back to the forum to see what exactly other people wrote about your paper, so that you can incorporate those corrections into your final draft. So you do have to go back to the forum after everybody, let's say you post on Wednesday and Thursday, and then on Sunday you can go back to see what everybody posted. Okay, so you got to go back to take a look. So, and also sometimes I give teacher feedback if I have time. So you got to, then once you get all of that feedback, then in the final draft you have to incorporate all that feedback in your final draft. That's why we have the writing process, because you have each draft gets better and better. By the time I have the final draft, I've memorized everyone's papers. So I can tell if you hand in the same thing, if you hand in week 4 and week 6 are the same exact paper with no changes, I will lower your grade. I could tell you did not bother to incorporate anything, and you simply just cut and paste the same thing all 3 times. Each time your grade will get lower and lower and lower. So you want to incorporate and make your paper better. So if I see changes in your paper, I will give you a better grade. So that is how you have to include the feedback corrections to the final draft of your paper. If you do not include the feedback, you will lose points on your midterm grade and then on your final grade. So what steps do you have to take to do a peer review forum? Do we post everything on Sunday?
No.
And do we just ignore the teacher feedback and just keep handing in the same thing over and over again?
No.
Do you learn anything if you don't look at the feedback? I mean, you gotta think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because you get out of the class as much as you put into it. If a student decides, I'm not gonna make the effort to put into this class, then that student learns very little. But if that student decides to put a lot into the class, that student gets to learn a lot. So that's where you have self-discipline. That's on the student to, want intrinsic motivation. You got to want to learn. You don't do it extrinsically, where I'm just getting the grade for my major, or I'm just getting the grade from my parents. That's not good enough. You have to want it. You have to hunger for it. I know it's weird to hunger for paper feedback, okay? But you got to hunger for knowledge. That's what it is. Hunger to improve. That will make you get a much better grade. And then I'm not going to go over peer review in the real world, because I think I went over it. I went over the professional review, because I went over that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the week 4 assignment, are we sending our paper in the discussion post, or are we sending that to you? For the peer
The week 4 paper, you're going to put it into the feedback. You're going to upload it into the assignments, just like you did the week 2.
Okay.
And
so when do we actually do peer review? Is it after that?
Yes, it's week 5. And 6. Because week 4 is another food game. You're just going to write a longer version of your food post, or you can come up with a different food post. It's up to you. But basically, I will be giving the class a whole bunch of adjectives, descriptive adjectives, and you're going to include those descriptive adjectives into your food post for a longer, more descriptive food post. This is quite helpful for students in which they didn't get anybody to really guess their post correctly. So those students then by the second week, they too get people, because if people can't guess your post correctly, then that means you didn't write a very good food post. You need to give more hints, but some people don't know how to give hints. So that's why there's a second week for the weaker students to finally get somebody to guess their food post correctly. That way then they know, okay, I now aced descriptive writing. Now I can go on to persuasive writing or comparison, or whatever the next paper is. So you're actually going to cover narrative writing, descriptive writing, persuasive writing, comparison contrast writing in this class. I think 4 out of 8. There's actually 8 kinds of writing in English, and we do about 4 out of 8. But I will give you an essay flowchart. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm not going to do the. I'll let you read the last part. It just talks about peer review in the real world. Like when you go to Amazon and everybody has the customer review, well, that's peer review in the real world. Or when you go to Yelp and you complain about this restaurant sucks, well, that's also peer review in the real world. So I don't feel like going through all of that. But anyway, so I could just tell you that that's much easier. And I'm trying to figure out why the hand is up here. Do you know why that hand goes up like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
You got it all.
Yeah, I guess I was at a previous lecture, and I used the same room for everything, So I probably had to go like this, because I'm not always the host. I'm only the host when I give the lecture for you students. But when I'm the participant and I'm learning something new like you are, I'll raise my hand, especially if there's 10 different people all raising their hands, and then whoever's the host that gets to decide, who hasn't spoken yet. That's how they decide who gets to, just like face to face in a classroom. But that makes sense only to other teachers. So I don't think you. But anyway, so do you have any questions about ENGL 101?
No.
Okay. So if you have no questions, I will. Let's see. So this is where I end. So if you have no questions, then I will see you next week. Week 4, I will be going over the week 5 quiz. So come everyone for the week 4 for the week 5 quiz prep. And then week 6, I will be going over the week 7 quiz prep. And week 5, I usually talk about nurses and writing. In other words, how all of this applies to the medical field, that sort of thing. So next week is just going to be another quiz, and we're going to go over, I forgot what I said already, week 5. And so quotation marks, that's it. It's quotation marks, punctuation, and mechanics. That's going to be what you're going to be tested on next time. So I'll see you next week then, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.